Well, it's not an emergency, but it's something we've never gotten to do before.
Emergency podcast. They did a thing, so we gotta talk about it. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency. Emergency podcast. Shut up, oh yeah, shut up, oh yeah, shut up. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency.
Hey, a hearty hello to you all, and welcome to Emergency Podcast, the Austin FC podcast, where we talk about all the Austin FC emergencies. We do not really have an emergency per se in this special kind of midweek appearance. Normally, we don't do one as soon as we have just done one. We did one a few days earlier. This is an exception. This is something we wanted to get up ASAP. We were thinking about holding it until the weekend, but we had the opportunity to talk to Nico Estévez this morning. Austin FC comms were nice enough to arrange a conceived of a breakfast with Nico kind of thing. Got about 25 minutes with him this morning. Ended up not really being a breakfast. We were both having coffee. Moises, you had breakfast though. They served you sausage and eggs, and you got to hit play and set up the mics and all that on this audio recording we're about to hear. So just wanted to get a sense from you about what you thought of everything, how it was to be running audio in the room, and throwing in a question there at the end.
The least interesting part of this is the fact that I was eating, but I was ideally positioned as the grungy audio tech in the corner watching the levels and so on, so that when Austin FC's comms director said, "Do you want anything? Food, coffee, water?" I was running on fumes. I had not eaten breakfast, and so I absolutely said yes, and I got a little child's portion of sausage and eggs, which I was very grateful for. And I tucked into, as the actual professional in the room, the Johnny Carson of this show, did his thing with the coach. And my general impression is that I love covering this guy so far, and this did not change that impression. Very forthcoming to the extent that I think is reasonable to expect, and candid in ways that we have not been used to covering this club and talking to members of their sporting operation. It's pretty short and sweet for me. Had a good time. It was worth getting out there early.
Yeah, and if he could have bailed for a coaches meeting that he had, but he stayed about the extra 5-10 minutes that we kept him, which I thought was really nice. Yeah, just really, really down to earth, really thoughtful. I feel really good about where this leadership is, and got to ask him some things. The idea with this was, let's ask some things that haven't necessarily been covered by the press yet. And there's been a lot of good questions. There's been opportunities. He's been forthcoming with things, but wanted to pick a set of questions that were a little bit different, giving a little bit of different glimpses into things that he was working on, thinking about things that he had done with Dallas, things that he's doing with the current team now in terms of thinking about formations, in terms of thinking about the use of fullbacks. Got some perspective on just his time here so far in Austin. And then you got to ask him at the end about supporters culture and how that kind of weighs in with what he's doing based on his experience. And he had some interesting remembrances on that, and just some good insights all the way around. So he's definitely a human being. He's not an automaton. He's not a robot. He's a real flesh and blood thinking, feeling coach. And I think it's going to be, again, really interesting and fun, especially with the roster, the way that it's turning out to be, to see how this team comes out of the gate. Obviously, new coach, new style. Don't know how it's going to work necessarily. Teams are competitive. Teams are loading up. Austin's not the only one that's making moves this offseason, but definitely feeling more optimistic maybe than I did I don't know. I wasn't not optimistic heading into 2024, but after the first half of the first match, I was definitely not so optimistic about how things were.
You had what I would describe as a "this again" countenance to you during that match. The only other thing that I think I would leave folks with, because just listen to the audio, because otherwise we're describing what you're about to listen to, and then you're listening to it twice. You're listening to the reenactment before you listen to the real thing. But the thing that I think is important to note is that why weren't we asking these questions in the last opportunities that we had to talk to him? Well, the last time we talked to him was right before the open practice, and watching the open practice informed exactly these questions that we're about to go into. And in fact, that tag that you mentioned at the end, where I wasn't planning on asking something, but because there was that kind of laid back vibe, I had something in the back pocket regarding an interaction that I had with him briefly after the open practice as things were winding down, which is a nice way of saying they were telling us to get the out as politely as they could because everybody had a good time and everybody wanted to go home.
You had already had your Oliver portion of food.
Yeah, I polished off my gruel and I did not say, please, sir, can I have some more? But I did say, please, sir, can I have one more question?
Right. Yeah, and I had asked them, is there any more of that? And was roundly ignored. So it was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to get a taco. So that's fine. Having the audience was way more important than having the food.
You suffer for your art,
that,
Phil. You suffer for your art.
Yeah. Between the last press conference, which was outdoors when it was 14 degrees out, and this where, nope, just coffee's fine. Just this coffee I brought. This is okay. But no, seriously, great to talk to him. Very candid. We're going to go ahead and just put it up here now. We'll be back with a emergency podcast fairly soon. Again, like I mentioned, I'm going to a nerd conference this weekend, a soccer nerd conference. So I don't know that we'll necessarily be able to record on the weekend, but definitely want to try to get something up somewhere before the Coachella trip just to preview that, or maybe we'll do something after that first match before the second, now that we'll have a chance to see them in a full 90, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about what we saw and what we're thinking about the team now that they're a little bit closer to the opener in late February here against SKC. Without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and roll tape on Nico and me here. Yeah, first of all, last time we got to talk to you, you were talking about some possible formation changes. Just kind of curious about how you think about formations generally and the offseason player moves that have happened, what that's doing to influence your thinking. I know that in the past you've gravitated kind of towards a 4-3-3, Berhalter school and all that. I know Wolf has done that too during his time, but you talked about some other flexibilities. So just kind of curious about that first of all.
Well, I mean, the first thing is formation is used to the people that doesn't have a big understanding and knowledge about soccer can understand better how the team shapes into the field. This is why we usually, as coaches, talk about different formations, because the numbers is easier to identify for players, for fans, for everyone around that how the team can shape.
Yeah.
My understanding is it goes more to have clear principles, clear concepts, where the formation, it's not the main thing. It's like you can change formation, but the principles of the game, the idea, the philosophy, and the concepts are going to stay there. The formations is coming also for the profile of players that you have. And depending on the players that we decide to put into the field, some formations shape better for one player or others. The idea, for example, also about formations is we use different formations when we have the ball, and it shapes between the 4-3-3, the 4-4-2, the 4-2-3-1, also the 3-4-3. Then it could shape different depending on also on the opponent. I always said that the context that the opponent is showing you, is bringing to you, is the way that you have to adapt to break them. Then, for example, if the team is more like in a 4-4-2, they have two forwards pressing.
Right.
Do we need a +1 in the build-up? Instead of building with two center backs, do we need a +1 and then build with three? Then feel our players more comfortable building with two, building with three, and then this will make us decide what type of shape we're going to do on the attacking side. And the defensive is very similar, because you could start and you mentioned before, Austin was attacking in a 4-3-3, but was defending in a 4-4-2. And we could use that 4-4-2. We could go to a 4-3-3. We could also sack some of the wingers and go more like a 5-2-3 that most of the teams in the world use when they play against a team that plays 3-4-3. Then it's kind of like how, depending on the profile of players, is something that when I have the opportunity to travel around the world and meet some coaches that are in top teams, they always say that we adapt depending also in the players that we have. I think what we are doing now is we are trying different things to see how we feel more comfortable depending what the opponent is doing to us.
Right.
And the games and the league has grown so much that coaches and teams change shapes during the game.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to adapt, very quick and make tweaks during the game too. And I think so far it's been very good.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll gravitate around those formations that you mentioned. The 4-3-3, the 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, and 3-4-3. So there is different shapes that we can use there, and I think the profile of players that we have feel comfortable with that.
Right. So it sounds like it's kind of a piece in teaching in terms of players understanding where they should be, what parts of the field they should occupy.
Yeah, because the concepts are the same,
Yeah.
The concepts are going to be the same. We're going to need players that runs in behind. We're going to need players that gravitate in pockets. We're going to need to draw the opponent towards us, towards one side, to switch field. Then at the end of the day, the principles are going to be the same, but yes, the positioning of the players is what is going to change depending how the opponent is shaping themselves in order to break them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, I want to talk a little bit about fullbacks, just thinking about that, just because Austin's used them in some innovative ways. Fulcrum's behind the final third to initiate attacks, but then also kind of more conventionally bombing down the wings, putting in crosses, things like that. So just kind of curious about your philosophy around fullbacks and how you want to use them, just kind of given the group that you have, what kind of things you think are possible with that particular position.
Well, I mean, fullbacks has become a really important position in every team around the world, because when you look at their profile, you look at they can be versatile, that they can adjust and adapt to different positions into the field. They can play inside, they can play wide, they can arrive to put crosses. And I think we have a really good set of fullbacks that can adapt to those positions. Mikel is a player that arrives very well underlapping, overlapping. Vito is a player that also can overlap, but he feels comfortable in the top of the box, arriving to the box for crosses.
Yeah.
Then we have to utilize their characteristics. Zan is a fullback that is really good in early crosses, overlapping. He has a special quality on that, but he also feels comfortable in trainings that we've seen playing a little bit more inside and have a good range of passes, like a diagonal pass to the other side. Connecting passes. And when we've been using John Gallagher as a fullback but also as a winger, he's a type of fullback that adapt also to different kind of positions. I think depending on the game and the other players that we play in the wings, we'll have a really good variation of how the fullbacks are gonna play the games.
Okay, great, good. And then just want to have you think back a little bit to last year. You had this project of acclimating Peter Musa to MLS. He had 5 goals by the time that you departed. He had 11 goals afterwards. So it seems like he did eventually sort of make that transition to the league. So just kind of curious about what you did coaching-wise to prepare him and kind of what you saw in terms of his evolution. Again, just kind of thinking you'll have a similar project with Azuni, who's new to MLS. Vasquez is going to reacclimate to MLS after some time at Liga MX. So just kind of curious about that in particular.
Well, I think every player is a different case, and they have different circumstances. Like, I think Peter should score more goals while I was there,
Right.
And he told me we had a good lunch after my departure, and
Right.
and with him, and he was telling me, and he had a good chances, but I think he acclimated very well. In terms, it's different because you don't know the personal situations of the players. To come to America is a big step. Is a huge difference between Europe and coming here. And for Peter, his wife was pregnant. He had a baby in May, and then he was worried about her being alone with the baby and everything. And I think it took a little bit more to acclimate, but I think he did a fantastic job dealing with all these situations. I think the club and us helped him a lot to get settled, and you could see after the result, once you are free in your mind, that you're focused on the task, I think you can get yourself going into, and I think we'll have a similar situation here. I think Brandon is different. He has played in the league already. He's American. His wife is American. They are already settled. It has been very quick for them to settle down. And I think, as always, we need to connect the dots here with the team and put everyone in the same page. But as soon as everyone is in the same page, I think he will have an easier adaptation to what is the league. I think Uzuni will see. You never know. I think because of the mentality that he has, it could be something that he can adapt soon. But always takes a little bit of time.
Right.
And I always put examples on players that came to the league, and then at the beginning it took a little bit, and then after, as they got into the rhythm of games and getting settled in the culture, they were able to perform really high. But we'll help everyone here to adapt quickly to the culture and to the club and to the team, and we hopefully, the sooner the better.
Right. Well, you had mentioned Musa's wife being pregnant. I mean, the sleep deprivation. I've been a dad. It's no joke. Is Uzuni in the same situation? Is his wife pregnant right now? Or?
Yeah, he is, but she's gonna stay in Barcelona with her family.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't want, like, it's gonna be very close to come here, and
Gotcha.
they probably will stay there. They have already everything settled in Spain with her family and everything, and I think they've made a good decision with that. And when he comes, he can be focused on performing and everything. And
What's the time frame on that?
We don't know.
Okay.
The visa is one of the things that you never know. And it could speed it up real quick and then have him in the next week. But so far we don't know. We don't know the timing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, great. And then the club recently announced it was retaining Davy Arnaud, so you've been working with him a little bit. Obviously, he brings some institutional knowledge, but you also brought a number of other coaches to Austin FC. So I'm just kind of curious about the mix and how the assistant coaches are working and kind of what they all bring individually to the table.
Well, first of all, I think Davy has an amazing CV that speaks for himself, like as a player in the league, and then as an assistant coach in different teams in MLS, and now here he has been 4 years, of almost 5, because if they started the year before they started the competing in the league, it will be his 5th year competing in the league. And I think he brings a lot of knowledge about the players, the club, the culture here. He's a great person. And then when I knew him before, also, a great relation with Jos, and he spoke always very highly about him. And when Rodo mentioned to me that David would like to stay in the club, and he also value him a lot, he has a lot of things to bring to the table, I didn't hesitate. I said, yeah, of course, and I think he will be great. And then I think he fits very well with the other staff that we're bringing, because his knowledge of the league. I think the other coaches has less knowledge of the league,
Gotcha.
but have other qualities that mixing everyone, it will make us to work really efficient and really detailed to improve the players and the team.
Yeah, so just looking back on the interview process and given this relatively quick turnaround from leaving FC Dallas to coming to Austin, just wondering what most appealed to you about this position, and then in particular your conversations with Rodo, and just kind of thinking about that relationship as that is continuing to be forged.
Well, I think first of all, I accepted a position in the U.S. men's national team. I was as assistant coach there. I signed a contract in July and I started working in August. And it was previous Greg's departure. And I helped the federation in the upcoming camps that they had. In this transition with Mauricio Pochettino coming. And then I was, after our camp here in Austin, and we played a game against Mexico in Guadalajara, I received a call from Rodo showing interest to talk with me, to know me better. He mentioned in that call that he had 3 candidates that he felt very good about it, and then that I was one of them. even though I didn't interview yet. But I think he's how he operates when he has very clear with knowing now more him and working with him closely is how he operates. He has a very clear idea of what he wants, and the reasons I think he explained it. The reason that he gave me is I know the league. I've trained in the Heat. He likes the way that my teams play. He knew everything. He saw every press conference that I had, my relationship with everyone, details that maybe people don't look at, but he had a lot of details about myself that I didn't know. He also, I think he has other people that maybe we the only time that I met him, it was when we play against Austin and say hello to him, but nothing that. But in the soccer world, we have a lot of people that, they know him, and I know them, and probably he also asked people about me. And then after we had the interview, and I felt in the interview went very well, and then we connected a lot of things. Also the knowledge about the salary cap and knowledge about players in the league and all these things I think help a lot. The traveling, I think I felt that after that interview that we had the next day of the call, it went very well. And then 2-3 days later, that was Friday, Monday he called me and he mentioned to me that he wanted to offer me the job, that he had to present to the ownership and the president and everything. And then after that, but he felt very, very strong about bringing me here.
Okay, good. Yeah, and then just kind of thinking about your settling into life in Austin with Austin FC, just kind of curious about how the transition's been for you, what you're enjoying most about the club, about the city, what challenges you're seeing as most pressing, and what opportunities you're seeing as present for you here.
Well, I think it's a fun question because usually coaches, we don't have much life
Sure.
outside of being here a lot of time, but we were lucky, my family and me, to explore different places, the South Congress area, walk around, went to some restaurants around, went to the Domain, we also live in a place where we had close a lot of places for hiking, and then we explored those things also. But as the good weather comes, I think we will have more time to explore more things. And the typical as any other people or any other coaches that we have now, players that are coming, a lot of things to do. Arrange the house, all the electric, and arrange all these things. Make sure the wife is happy. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Is she?
And she's getting settled.
Okay.
We have our daughter still in Dallas until the end of the school year, and it's the first time. And mom and daughter always have a very close relationship, and sometimes they miss each other. But I think overall, really, really good. Just getting, it takes time to feel like your new home is your home.
For sure.
Your house is your home, right? But I think with things that we're doing, and now we're putting all the pictures in the walls and all these things, it will feel better. But so far, the city has welcomed us really good. The people around, the fans has had an amazing welcoming to us, and the club also. Anything that we need, they are always ready to help us, and I think so far we are really, really happy about it, and we want to keep growing these relationships between everyone here. And as soon the wives of the staff members comes and we can gather together, I think we'll feel like a family here. But so far, really, really good. My son has adapted very well to the school. He's playing soccer, has adapted really well, and I think that's the most important thing, that seeing them smiling. My daughter is doing a lot of home tasks that she didn't do before, and my wife is so happy about it. And when she comes, she will be ready to do it at home, and it's part of the growth. And I think these projects and these that we have is not only professional; it is about life, and we welcome always to have these opportunities.
Okay. And then you talked about the fans and all that. So were you surprised with the open practice and the turnout, given the weather, given the?
I mean, in Europe, we're used to like do open trainings in Christmas and other opportunities that the team have, and usually the response of the fans are really, really good. It was here in Austin. It was the first time, and you never know how they're going to respond. But I think they're responding really, really well. And I think if it's something that we continue doing, I think there is going to be growing. And if the weather is a little bit, warmer, it will be. But I was very surprised in the good way, because the response was amazing. We felt them in the training, and I think the players saw that they are behind us. Cool. And that's very important.
Something that struck me is that coming up in supporter group culture yourself, there was a look on your face that you were used to being on the fan side of that equation. I know that you've talked about it in interviews before, but especially now that a new group of people are getting to know you, could you tell us a little bit about coming up in supporter group culture, being part of building supporter group culture in Spain, and what that does to your perspective as a coach when it comes to interacting with the fan base?
Well, I think, and then as every person that is in this group fan base, and particularly in my case in Spain, is in order for me to be able to be part, my parents said, if you want to be part, you have to pay yourself. But I was a kid, and all the money that I collect from my grandparents, from my birthdays, from this, I used to pay the membership, the season ticket membership to be part of the group. And then I know that the sacrifices that a lot of people do just to be part of them on the economic side, but also on the time side on your life, because I remember when we were meeting to draw and paint the banners and everything to support a team, and you can spend the whole day doing things instead to be playing with your friends or playing video games or doing other things, right? And then you sacrifice your time for the team. Then I know how much time the people dedicate to do those things, because I've done it. And also how when you have to support, even though that you maybe are a little bit sick, or maybe you have another thing to do, the first thing you do is to go support, and then you don't hesitate. And then you give everything after the game. You don't have a voice because you've been supporting all the time, in the good, in the bad moments. And I think that love, you can get upset if the result didn't go in the way, but after you start supporting again, because you know how important it is, like they bounce back quickly, and I think the fans are the ones that if they also bounce back quickly, the players will feel it, and then will help them to bounce back quickly. And this is what I feel. I know how much important it is. I was listening yesterday, the goalkeeper from Athletic Bilbao, that there is an issue between the fans and the club, and they are going to the stadium, but they are not singing, they are not supporting the team, and the players is affect to the players. And he said there, it's something that you play for the fans. Without fans, it will be very difficult to perform and to create like a magic nights, magical nights. I think fans make everything feel much, much better.